Hi guys, welcome back to Airam's Vegan Vida. So in today's video, I will be showing you how I make pastor tacos but vegan. I come from a family of taqueros. So my dad is a taquero himself. He has his own taco stand and I grew up working there since I was 9 years old. Could you believe that? I am literally la hija del taquero. So growing up, I was always surrounded by really good tacos. Obviously, when I became vegan, I was like, I gotta continue this Quintero tradition, but veganize it, you know, animal cruelty free. So that is really the inspiration behind these tacos. These are a take on my dad's recipe, but veganizing it, I really wanted to show you guys that you can eat delicious tacos, but with no meat. They show you guys how I make my pastor tacos, and also finally filming how I actually make salsa. I always make salsa in my videos but don't film it, so I filmed you guys how I made my green salsa. I filmed the guajillo sauce, and this is the same guajillo sauce I used in my tamal video, so I'll be just showing you like the little clip of that. I hope you guys really enjoy this recipe. It is really inspired by growing up around tacos. I was working at my dad's taco stand at the point that I transitioned to veganism, so it was pretty like crazy working there, being vegan, like transitioning to vegan. People always made it seem like, oh, how are you gonna be vegan if you work like around meat all day? And I was like, well, this is what I grew up, and people always made it seem like, oh, it's so hard. Like people always told me, oh, I don't know, I can't be vegan because my family always makes carne asada. And I was like, well, literally my parents are taqueros, so if I can do it, you can do it. I mean, you just gotta have priorities, I guess you can say, and you get what I mean. Okay guys, so to get started with this video, I'm going to be using soy curls as my protein today. I'm simply preparing these as it says on the packaging. It says to simply put this bag soaked with water for 10 minutes so that way they can puff up and soften up, because when you take them out of the bag, they are super crispy. So as you can see right there, I filled up a bowl with water, and that's it. I'm setting that aside for 10 minutes. In the meantime, I'm going to prep the vegetables I will be using. So I sliced this half of a white onion so that I can grill them, because I love grilled onions with my tacos, and also grilling some jalapenos. Next up, when you go to taco stands, they sometimes give you rabanos or radishes. Not every taco stand does that, but I like the ones that do. What I'm doing here is simply preparing them. I did some of them whole and some of them in slices for easier munching. Also, some taco stands like to give you cucumbers, so again, that is the inspiration behind this. I could not find big cucumbers, so bear with me for this little baby cucumber. It's all I could find, and that worked just fine. I mean, it's not like you need a lot, so that's all I did. I peeled it and sliced it. As far as the actual tacos, I like to top them with some diced red onion and some cilantro. So first up, I took half a red onion and sliced it and diced it. You already know. Personally, I like to dice mine as finely as possible, because one of my biggest pet peeves ever was some taco stands with huge chunks of onion. So yeah, to each their own. Next up, I'm taking one bunch of cilantro that has been washed thoroughly, cutting off most of the stem but not all of it, simply chopping that like so, as finely as I could get it as well, and there you have it. Before I get started on the cooking process, I'm going to show you guys how I make my green salsa. I put 26 tomatillos alongside 1 jalapeno and 1 serrano into a pot of water, letting them cook until the tomatillos and the chilies have softened completely. So now that they have softened, I'm going to be placing all the warm contents now into the blender. That jalapeno, that serrano, and all the tomatillos. I found it easier to drain out the water and then pour them out all together, so that's what I chose to do. Alongside that, I will be adding 3 chiles de árbol, 4 raw garlic cloves that have been peeled, half a tablespoon of salt of your choice, and voila, blend until smooth. Little heads up, this recipe is mild, so if you want a spicier salsa, double the amount of jalapenos or serranos that I added and you will get a spicier salsa. For the guajillo sauce that is necessary for these pastor tacos, it is the same exact recipe I used in my tamal video. I'm placing 35 guajillos that have been pre-seeded and pre-cooked to be softened into a blender. For the spices, I will be adding 1 tablespoon of black pepper, 1.5 tablespoon of oregano, and 1.5 tablespoon of bay leaves. 15 raw garlic cloves, 1 cup of white vinegar, and blend until smooth. Depending on how high speed your blender is, it will determine how long you need to blend this for. I blended this for 3 whole minutes. After the first minute, I did add 1 full cup of the guajillo water that the guajillos were cooking in, so I could thin that out a little bit, and it adds a little flavor because it has all the like guajillo residue. I proceeded to blend this until smooth. Like I said, it took me 3 minutes of pureeing this. Now it's all done. I placed it into a mason jar and a reused veganized jar. This amount of guajillo sauce works for multiple recipes. Like I said, I used this same sauce in my tamal video, and now I'm using it in the pastor video, and I had quite a lot of leftovers that I'm gonna continue to use. For example, this works great with some vegan chicken, making some jackfruit birria, and many other recipes. Okay, so 10 minutes later, the soy curls are done hydrating themselves, and I'm adding 1 tablespoon of oil to a pan that's on medium heat, pouring all those now drained soy curls on there. Make sure that when you take out the water, you also squish out all the water so that they're super dry, because what I'm gonna do next for the next 10 minutes or so, I'm gonna let the soy curls cook on medium to high heat, keeping an eye on them to make sure they get all that moisture out. You do not want any moisture out because you're gonna want it to soak up your sauce. So once they have begun to brown and you feel like they're getting pretty dry, you can now add 1 cup of the homemade guajillo sauce that we made earlier, because this pastor is really delicious, but it does need some love and care. It does take like 30 to 35 minutes to get optimal flavor, cook out the sauce and everything. You already know. So what I did here is pour it and mix it around thoroughly, and now I'm just gonna let it sit for a couple minutes. Keep an eye on it, but you can't walk away from it for a little bit. Once the sauce has begun to brown a little bit as well, you can now add some seasoning salt. I added 1 tablespoon seasoning salt for some salt because the guajillo sauce itself does not have salt, so this is essentially gonna be our salt. So mix that around thoroughly, keeping an eye on it. They're still a little wet, so yeah. Okay, so now that it's been around 30 minutes, I'm adding half a cup of diced onion. I'm gonna mix that around thoroughly, and I'm gonna want to keep cooking that till they are translucent and caramelized. This is gonna take another additional like 10 to 15 minutes. So like I said, this recipe, it does need a lot of love and care. I'm setting that aside for now because I'm gonna get started on other things. But off camera, I did grill 2 slices of pineapple. Now I'm adding that on here for flavor. You don't have to add pineapple, but I do recommend it. Some people do like the pastor with pineapple and some people don't. It is up to you. I personally think it tastes pretty yummy. So now mix around all that pineapple with the pastor. It really gives it a nice sweetness and touch to it. So you want to cook the pastor until it kind of burns a little bit. That's really how you do it. In total, it took around 45 minutes to do the meat. Okay, so now moving on to the tortillas. Today I'm making homemade tortillas using maseca, and I'm simply gonna be mixing it. Sorry you guys, I did not measure this. I honestly just pour in the mixture and then pour in water till it becomes a good consistency, till it is not too sticky, not too wet, but not too dry, if that makes any sense. I'm simply gonna touch it and feel it, and that's how I know. So I'm gonna be forming little balls because I'm gonna want to make kind of taco sized tortillas, so making sure they're the same size. For now, I'm only gonna be making 6 on camera, so there you go. So for my tortilla maker, I use a plastic bag. I know, so that way it doesn't stick to a tortilla maker. My mom bought me this tortilla maker. Yeah, and that's pretty much how I use my tortilla press. I'm just showing you guys on camera. It's pretty easy, pretty self-explanatory, but if you want to completely skip this, you can of course use store-bought ones like Guerrero or Mission tortillas. So I put these onto my grill and I flip them once they are able to flip, and then I smack them really hard so that they could puff up. And as you can see right there, they have to puff up like that because the inside needs to get cooked thoroughly as well. Now that they've puffed up, they are ready to be set aside in a tortilla holder. Alright, so now moving on to plating. I'm taking my super hot tortillas from my tortilla holder, and I'm gonna be placing the pastor meat that is already browned and delicious. Simply just putting meat on all the tacos, pretty self-explanatory. Adding some green, some cilantro, adding some of that diced red onion alongside some lime, some grilled onion, some of that grilled jalapenos that we did at the very beginning, and I also added some radishes and cucumbers off camera. And now I'm adding some of that green salsa verde, just a small scoop because you all know I'm not that tolerant with spice. So yeah, and there you have it. That is simply how you plate and do these delicious tacos. Alright, you guys, so here is the finished product. Honestly, if you have the extra time, I do recommend making your own homemade tortillas, but if you're on a time crunch, use store-bought, of course. This recipe is killer. It is so authentic tasting and honestly takes me back to the days I used to eat tacos al pastor. Honestly, I think my dad finally has some competition. I'm just kidding, but yeah. Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed this recipe and I hope you guys show your friends and family and enjoy. Thank you guys so much for watching. Bye!